Welcome to a new episode of Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Get ready to touch gloves as we welcome MMA star Clifford Big Cat Starks to the program. Starks' overall record stands at an impressive 14-5. Starks has had quite the journey through life and conquered so many obstacles along the way. Despite his participation in such a brutal sport, Starks also serves as a life coach who has spoken on his support and love for people from all walks of life. We now welcome Mr. Starks to this live stream of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host and one that's always full of love herself, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy start of NFL football season. I know so many of us are so excited for tonight's regular season kickoff, but excited to welcome you guys back. And it's been a little while since our live stream show, but I have a very special guest and treat for you all. And if you've had a chance to listen to the audio show as well, be sure to check out special guest Khalid Green, who joined me on the latest audio show that dropped yesterday. Super fantastic interview with someone who's been an NBA scout at the professional level with both the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, and now is doing great stuff as the director of grassroots advocacy and programs for Overtime Elite Basketball based out of Atlanta. So be sure to check that out. But for today's show, we're going to the world of professional fighting at the top level, and someone who's really been able to parlay his career into being a professional speaker, a keynote speaker right at the top level, a business owner, an entrepreneur, and helping others to do that too. So without further ado, I am so excited for the very first time welcoming him on the show, none other than Clifford Big Cat Starks, a veteran UFC and MMA fighter, to the show. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Hey, Clifford, how are you? Thanks so much for joining Listen In with KNN. It's so great to see you and meet you virtually.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And I love that intro too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to my incredible team.
What a team. I love that team.
Oh, I appreciate it. Shout out to Mike Lyle, who did the wonderful voiceover for it. Shout out to my graphic intern, Gabby, who put the video together, and my graphic intern, Kaylin. So look, it's not just me.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
I love to give shout outs, but how are you feeling? How are you doing? I know there's been, I guess summer is like technically over, right? It's starting to get a little bit chilly here in the East Coast. Well, you're in Arizona, so you might not.
Yeah, it's not chilly yet. We're actually hitting a heat wave at the moment.
Look, it's like, but you can still drink pumpkin spice, so you still feel some of the fall. But again, just so excited to have you on. And Clifford, you're in what? You're still in Arizona now, right?
I am. It
awesome.
It's an oven here right now. But,
to say the least.
I have fun with it. Oh, but while we were giving shout outs, I do want to give a shout out to Todd Schweck. He was the one who introduced us. So amazing individual. And I'm so grateful to be on with you.
Oh, I'm honored to have you. And I know when Todd calls or puts me in contact with somebody, I know it's going to be fantastic and great. And, your story is incredible. And, getting into your story, let's start there. So veteran UFC and MMA fighter, I will tell you, when I watch these bouts, I'm just so impressed at the athletes that you guys truly are. I mean, that takes, I think, a different type of physicality, a different type of mentality as well. I know we've continued to kind of see the sport grow right throughout, because I know Dana White right now is going around the world, right, with his new series and doing lots of great work. But let's get into that. So, I mean, I know you were a physical trainer, right, before you got into fighting. But tell me, I mean, what propels you to get into that ring? I think, ring that so many of us enjoy and love, but I can only imagine how brutal it is inside.
Like the thing that propelled me, I wanted to live a life worth living. And I'm always looking to stretch myself, looking to see how far I can go. And I'm like, oh, well, if I fight with guys who are my same strength and size and speed and ability, that's going to be a heck of a competition. So I got out there and gave it a try, and I was right. It's not easy. You learn a lot about yourself.
You do. And quickly, I imagine, at that, because you don't have a lot of time to make decisions. Okay, so when did you start fighting? Because I know now, is it right to call you retired? Are you thinking about getting back in the ring, Clifford? Like, where are we at right now?
I like to say I've never truly retired.
Okay, because I know a lot of athletes say that. So I was like, I don't want to use that R word yet.
Yeah, I like, how Prince would call himself, formerly known as Prince. I'm a formal UFC fighter, so I can always come back. I can always do what I want to do. But the reason I walked away was because of my first kid. Like that's the thing that made me change my priorities and said, I want to get a message out there. I always want to get a message out there, but there's safer ways to do it now.
Yeah. So, like, essentially, and I think everyone has a different meaning, right? But when that first kid comes, I've always heard that it kind of helps you put life into perspective, right? And maybe what was important isn't as important, right? Then, so I guess for you, like, was it right when the baby was born? Was it prior to the baby being born? Like, when was that exact moment?
It was actually 100% terrifying. It was a lesson that I learned the hard way. I was terrified for my last fight, like absolutely terrified. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, what's going on?
Right.
And I go out to the cage. I'm getting ready to fight this killer Russian. They close the cage door. And that's when I realized, I'm like, I gotta watch my kid tomorrow. Like, this is probably the best space to be in right now.
And like you said, once it's closed, you're like, you have to put yourself in. You pretty much got to do it, because if you don't, the other person probably will. And you don't.
And what was interesting, so part of what I do as an entrepreneur, because I support entrepreneurs and business owners through their journey.
Right.
And there's three pieces that need to be in place. I talked about getting your mind, your heart, and your skill set in place. My mind was there because mind is the ability to connect the dots. As a fighter, I had been a high-level fighter, so I knew how to do that. And my skills were there, but my heart wasn't in it. And when your heart's not in something, it's probably not the best place for you.
Yeah. It's a lot harder, I think, to motivate yourself to do something, right? It's kind of like, I like when your heart's there, like for me, I teach an 8 a.m. class. If my heart wasn't in it, those would be a lot harder to get up for, and to teach. But what gets me out of bed when my 3 alarms go off at 5 a.m., 5:05 a.m., and 5:10 a.m., now you guys know my routine, it's the passion, right? I know I have the opportunity, like, to give, and I truly love what I do. I feel like I love the impact that I'm able to have on the next generation. And, I think people forget that part of athletes, right? Like, we're about to prepare for football tonight, Clifford, right? In the NFL, right? We're watching WNBA season right now and MLB season. And again, as much as it is physical, I think it truly is mental. And I think that mental part, at least I consider that heart kind of filling part to be part of it. Because I truly believe everybody would love to do what they love. Of course, I know that's not always able to, but when you love it, I think it's just, it helps everything, I think, kind of coincide and makes everything a little bit easier.
100%. And I look at the mind-heart connection and just getting those two right together. Because if your heart's not in it and your mind is, that's tough. And if your heart's in it, but your mind's not, that's tough too.
Right. Like you said, I think it's that balance. I hear you talking down. I'm like, okay, he's so soft-spoken and so nice, but there's no way you were talking like this in that cage, Clifford. Is this the
so
side? If I talk to your opponent,
what's interesting? Yeah, what's interesting. So I would tell people in fighting, it's a competition and a collaboration. Because they're expecting me to be a certain way in that cage, even in football, right? I'm expecting that when I'm on one side of the line and someone's on the other side of the line, they got to do what they got to do, and I respect it. Right. So yes, there are different sides to Cliff, but I only show them in collaboration.
And I like that collaboration piece. I never thought about it till you just said that, but that makes sense, right? Yeah. And then I think, whatever you're doing can require a different side of you. Doesn't mean you're not the real you. It's just another side of you. I think
different pieces. And I'll tell you, so married 17 years, 2 kids.
Nice.
You have to have multiple sides, especially as a dad. Yeah. Now I get my dad even more because I'm a dad now.
Right. So what he went through essentially. And just getting to
go bald.
Yeah. Some things are inevitable, right? Some things are inevitable. As we get into the fatherhood piece, and I love that you're talking on this. And this is actually why I love doing the show, because I think there are so many facets to athlete that sometimes we don't get to dig into. And I like that you describe yourself. You're not just an athlete, right? You are someone that's not only a business owner, but helping other people accomplish their business dreams. So you talked about it, married for 17 years and a father. What's been the biggest lesson you think you've learned thus far in fatherhood? Because I feel like being a father is like a lifelong lesson, right? You're always learning. You never stop.
That's such a great question. I'm going to start with, I get why teenagers can have trouble sometimes. And what I mean by that is the best way to be listened to is to actually listen to someone else. And the older I get, the better I get at listening to other people. It's not an easy thing because we're in our own bodies. So even when we think we're listening, we're not listening at all. We're listening the way we know how to listen.
Right.
And as I get better and better at it, I get to listen for my kids, for my wife, for my community. I get better at it the more that I do it.
I want to dig into this listening piece because I feel like, so especially now, right? How every generation's like, oh, the kids are this and the kids are that because they're always changing. I feel like with the listening piece, it's interesting because I think you have an old school frame of thought where it's that type where it's like, I'm your parent, I'm not your friend. And I think some people could maybe take that listening part maybe as kind of a more friendship with your child. So I just want to break that down a little bit more to kind of where you see that. Does it fall into either one of those kind of pillars or ways, or do you kind of see it as something different? Because I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there wondering, I want to listen to my kid, but I also once a parent, especially because we can be honest, today it's a different world, right? That kids are growing up in. My heart is still broken for the school shooting that we just have all witnessed, in Georgia. And of course, about seeing, but again, it's a different world a different reality, right? That this generation, Gen Z, right? Gen Z is growing up.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is the best way to know the world is to know yourself. So it starts with you. And our brains, they distort, delegate, and generalize things. That's what it naturally does. That is what the brain does. Right. So in that generalization, we say, you can have this or this. You can be this or this. And I ask the question, why not both?
Yeah.
And so I get people just thinking a little bit different. Yeah, you can be your child's friend and their father. And again, as we're talking about the many layers of Clifford Starks, there's going to be times where different times are happening. If my kid is trying to put a fork in a plug, well, it's on. I'm not just going to be what you doing there, buddy? What's going on?
Right. You're
what are you? Whoa, get over here, buddy. No, we're not doing that. Right. And then there's going to be different times. So I think everything's situational, just like you wouldn't use a fork for everything. You wouldn't use a spoon for everything. But you're going to use different tools and strategies depending on the situation.
Right. like you said, and I think this is why it's good to again have an arsenal of tools at your disposal. Look, you're getting shouted out from Misty Morrison. He's an amazing father, and even on calls doesn't hesitate to stop and answer one of their questions. I love
I'm a
that.
Misty in the house.
Look, kids, your dad. Look, it's been verified. It's been justified that he is a cool dad. But I think that's so important. And again, I know everyone's parenting style is different, but I think parents are just trying to get it right. Right at the end of the day, especially with that first kid, you are trying your hardest to figure it out.
You said it so perfectly. Because ultimately, what I say is like, you know what? Everyone's doing the best they can with what they know.
Right.
And when I go into that listening piece, like I go, okay, what do they think is right and why do they think it's right? And could I show them a way that might be even more right than they know right now? I like looking at things very curiously for myself.
Yeah, I think looking at the world with the curiosity will only help you to get better, right? As an individual and have that global perspective. And all right, so I'm already sold into why people are getting into this Starks transformational coaching that you're doing. I'm like, I'm hearing it. I'm bearing witness.
Thank you. Appreciate
all
you.
that you do. So so you go from the fighting career, and I feel like you're so humble and modest about it. I mean, UFC, MMA, it's not easy stuff we're talking about. Because you guys, I'm going to brag on Clifford real quick. 2024, this year, Hall of Fame inductee for the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame. So again, he was doing it physically and he was doing it mentally. So take me back to, when you found out you're getting presented with that honor. What did it mean to you again to go from somebody, who had obviously had a dream and it somehow touched, right, fighting, because I know it's not all you do, but then to get the highest level, right, Hall of Fame. People dream about being in the Hall of Fame.
It was a true honor and a privilege. And I'm so grateful for everything that I do, everything that I've been through. I've been through the ups, the downs, the lefts and rights. And ultimately, you get a choice on how you're going to present,
Right.
And I always say results are important. Getting the win is important. But how you win is even more important. Like, how are you showing up? What are you doing to show up? And so every win, I want that to be a win for everybody else too. I want everybody to know that there's a Hall of Famer in all of us, every single one of us.
Yeah.
And if we put in the reps, we'll put them in crappy at first, because that's just the way that everything goes. I sucked as a fighter. I sucked as a fighter. I've sucked in life, but I've also gotten really good in life. And you get good from putting in the reps and giving your best each and every time.
I like that. I'm just curious, how do you determine that bar of success? When you say your best, like, when do you feel like, let's go to the ring first? When did you feel like you were at your best, Mr. Starks? When were you the best big cat in the ring?
That's an awesome question. All right. So this is my answer to it. You're your best when you're giving so much, it scares you. And when I go, like, I remember we would run these hill runs.
Yeah.
And Kelsey, they scared me. Like, because I knew in order to grow, I needed to push past my comfort zone. Yeah. And I had to get in my head and think of the future. Like, okay, I'm going to get my hand raised and everything's going to be good and things are going to be amazing. And I'd have butterflies because my body knew what it was getting ready to do. And so giving your best is stretching past what your current limit is.
Yeah. And I think when somebody thinks about that, again, what is that point for you? Maybe you've reached it already, or maybe your best is yet still to come.
There it is. My best is yet still to come. Like,
that's exciting. You can chase.
Yeah, because you always have a new level of best. There's always a new level of best. And once you have an experience, you want to have the new experience. But I'll tell you, like, so when I got out of fighting, because I'm crazy and I go after really big things, I can't help myself. But I'm like, I want to influence 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And I meant it. And then the lessons start coming, though. Like, it's always, you want to do the thing.
Yeah.
And then you go take the action to do the thing and you realize, oh crap, this thing isn't as easy as I thought it was.
Right.
And,
Initially.
yeah, you're just like, oh crap. And what I learned, which was really, really cool, was everyone I influence, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to influence others. But everyone I influence actually influences me too. So I'm like, oh my goodness, my life is going to change 1 billion times. Like every story that I touch, every person that I connect with,
Right.
I'm not only influencing them, they're influencing me.
Mm-hmm. It's bi-directional. It's both of you all.
Yeah.
And when you go like digging a little bit deeper in that, so like knowing you want to reach your best, I still want to figure out this part that you went from training, and you must have been training at your best, to when did you take that knowing that you were at your best? When did you parlay that into, all right, I'm going to be a professional fighter? What's that process like? Right? Because we see you all in the cage, but what was that best moment that reached you to enable you to know that you could fight on that professional level?
That's a good question. So, well, my first fight was I was sparring with an amateur just at my level. And it was kind of exciting. Like it was really, really cool.
And describe your level for those that might not be fully integrated.
Didn't know what the heck I was doing. Now, here's the thing. So my wrestling background helped because I had resilience and I had durability. Like I have the heart to keep going and I won't quit. But I did not know how to fight a lick. I didn't know anything about anything. Me and him both had like a month of training, and it looked like we had a month of training. Like we just looked like we didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, and then my second sparring match, Kelsey, I got the crap beat out of me. Like that's the best way to put. I got the living crap beat out of me, and the guy looks at me. He's like, "Man, you're gonna be good." I go, "What are you talking about? I didn't hit you once. I didn't hit you once. You beat the crap out of me." And he goes, "Yeah, but you got me in the chest that one time." I go, "Dude, I got you. Why hit you once? And it was your chest. I didn't even get you in the face." So I'm looking at that. Now, here's Tony Robbins. He says success leaves clues, right? A coach actually pulled me to the side and started working with me after that. And I didn't know why he worked with me. He just, but I realized what it was. When I talk about giving my best, I'm always going to give my best. I did give my best as I was getting my butt kicked. But good coaches can see that. They know when you're giving your best and they want to actually help you give your best. I'm a sponge. So I like to learn what I need to learn. He knew, I just didn't know jack stuff. So I just gotta keep going. And but people love people who are determined and who go after what they go after. Yeah. And they want to help them and support them.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's how you built your fan base. I'm seeing all the fans chiming in with these wonderful comments, about you. And I think there's power in what you said. I feel like when you feel like you failed something, right? Like you said, you got your butt whooped, but somebody saying like, wait, I'm going to be great. And I think a lot of us sometimes don't realize those lessons sometimes in failure, right? Because I think we all beat ourselves up a lot of the time, right? I failed. I'm no good. There was a time when I didn't think I was going to be a broadcast. I thought I just had failed out of it, right? I'm like, I reached rock bottom. But it has to be something, I think, again, when you go back and look at it, that perspective piece, right? When you can be like, oh, wait a minute.
It does. It does. Yeah. And you know what? You're so right about the people beating themselves up. And I'll tell you, this isn't not to relate to people, but this was my journey.
Yeah.
I didn't really beat myself up because I learned to like talk highly about myself. And this is why. I lived in a place, Ahwatukee, at the time. And it was called All White Tukey. That's what it was called. I was like the only black kid there.
Wow.
And I had to build myself up. So I would build myself up and talk about how amazing I was and what I could do and who I could become and how I could show up.
Right.
And it helped me build this mindset of I can go after anything that I want to go after. And my parents were a part of that too. Like all that constantly building and going up and moving forward and putting in the reps. And I learned something about myself. I learned that even if I was bad at something, I could get good at it. and I could appreciate the journey fully. And a word is just a word. We apply a definition to it. So some people are like, I failed, I learned, I grew. It's just a word. It's how we apply meaning to the word. So the meanings that I would apply is, when I do something, I get good at it. And if I'm not good at it, I get good at it from putting in the reps, and then I get better at putting in the reps. And that's just, and I want to pour that onto everybody. I want everybody to know, like, do the reps that you want to do to become the person that you want to become. Go after your dream. I actually went into dream, vision, result. So you have a dream, you start off with a dream, and then that dream becomes a vision with strategy. And then you have a result, which is strategy and action. And strategy and action is not always perfect right away. Like, it's actually really, really imperfect when you first start. But if you keep at it, it starts like, oh, it's starting to come together. That's cool.
Right. And I think it's so good that you put that additional kind of extra to the dream, right? Because we're all told to dream, but I like that strategy piece, because a dream, it needs some type of roadmap, some type of, you need some type of direction, 100%. I think, to reach that. And I think that's the important part for all of us to learn, right? Again, easy to have a dream, but how are you going to make that happen in reality? So it's easy to see, obviously, again, how everyone's buying into the Starks transformational coaching, because I'm learning so much here just talking to you. And I think, too, it sounds like you just have a healthy perspective on life, Clifford. Like, you seem like a positive person. And I have to think that helps, too, right? With just keeping that positive mindset, knowing that you can achieve that goal.
So much easier, like so much easier. Now, I will say this. I get nervous just like anybody else. I get scared. I get fearful. I get doubtful. I get all of those things. So I'm not saying that I don't get those things, but I am saying whatever I practice with intentionality, I become. So if I practice being optimistic, I just become more optimistic. Doesn't mean that life doesn't hit you over the head. It doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. It doesn't mean that you don't crash in the waves. It just means that you're all good. And I like saying, take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun on the journey.
I like that. Take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And that's such an important part, that last part. Have fun in the journey. Yes, you got to have fun in life, right? We all have goals. We all have and ambitions. And I'm serious, but if you can't tell, I'm fun as well, because you have to have that fun part. And that's how that's how I keep energized. If I wasn't having fun doing what I'm doing, I wouldn't be smiling here with you, Clifford. I wouldn't be trying to put positive vibes and energy onto you. So I think that's such an important part. That's a bar. It needs to be on a t-shirt. If it's not on a t-shirt,
you're right.
I'm telling you, people would get that shirt. That. It's okay. So how do you go from, being in the ring and kind of having to be probably a more aggressive type of person, meaning that's probably how people saw you on the outside, to all of a sudden transitioning yourself into an entrepreneur, right? And kind of rebranding yourself, I think, in a way, as someone who could give kind of, in a sense, I guess, life lessons-ish, right? You're leaning on your life lessons.
Yeah. So it was always the same Cliff. And what I mean by that, a lot of heart, dealing with the ups and downs, a lot of heart. And when a person takes the time to listen to me, because when I'm wearing gloves and punching people in the face, it's a little bit scary and intimidating to people. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know about.
I'm afraid to approach.
Once you talk to me, like, oh, it's actually kind of cool to talk to. and I want to be a person who just has a good time. I'll share a story.
Yeah.
I was at a bar with a friend of mine. My friend was being an idiot, like an absolute idiot, bumping into a guy. And the guy's like, what, you got a problem? And he's like, I do have a problem.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what are you going to do? Because I'm here with my UFC friend over here. And he goes, and when egos get flared up, like people they don't even care anymore.
Go off the wall.
Like, I'll fight you both. And I slapped my friend upside the head and I'm like, look, I'm really sorry, man. Like, I came to have a good time. You came to have a good time. Drinks on me. And the guy goes, this guy's cool. Drinks around on me. And that's That's what it's about. Like, life's not about like, well, who can be the biggest, baddest, who can be the best for their community? That's the name of the game. Like, how do you show up as your best for your community? When I was a fighter, I was a fighter. When I'm a coach, I'm a coach. When I'm a trainer, I'm a trainer. I'm just looking like, how can I serve my community effectively? Not how can I prove something to myself? Like, life's too short to really play that ego game.
I think it's something people need to, sit on, because I think sometimes our egos can get away from us. And like you said, it puts you in situations like the example you gave.
I want to so hug everybody. I'll tell you, yeah, because the tensions can get hot, as I'm sure that you've seen. We're like, they're really, really mad. They're not even talking to each other anymore.
Yeah,
like, oh, wow, they downright hate each other right now.
Yeah. And like you said, but I think it's like taking that step back, because that could have put you in a bad situation, right? Maybe you listen to your friend's ego, and I'm sure that would have put you in a whole different legal category of trouble, right? If you fought somebody as a professional fighter that you just didn't want to, get into. But I think that's when it's too, again, you have to go. I think for me, at least, it's going back to your dreams and visions. And I think that's kind of how also you can keep yourself out of situations, right? Like, fighting this guy is not going to do anything for me, but get me in more trouble, and maybe my friend a little laugh at the end of the day.
Like, that does absolutely nothing except make things worse.
So having that discipline, it sounds like, right, and that balance, I think, is so important, for all of us moving and going forward. Even in the ring, right? You got to have discipline, right? You got to know when to attack.
I love the competitiveness of it, because just how we were talking about learning, you want to learn a lesson fast, have fists and legs come in your direction, and I'm telling you, you just learn what to do. It's crazy.
All right, he's going to go there again. I know what to do. No, it makes so much sense, everything you're touching on. But again, I just love your perspective and how you're able, to look back. Okay, so now we're in the coaching mode, the transformational speaker mode. Tell me about I'm seeing some of your, it seems like your clients now. Is that the right word to call them, Clifford? Some of the people that you're working with now. They just seem so motivated, by you. So again, how have you been able to parlay all of your great sports knowledge and skill into being a businessman taken seriously?
So there's a saying, know thyself. When you know yourself, you always have a chance.
Right.
And if you know yourself, you can actually utilize both your strengths and your weaknesses.
Right.
If you do it correctly. And so I've taken, this is from Myron Golden. He says and I'm not going to say it as well as he does. I mean, the guy's a genius in the way that he says this, but he goes, a psychocosmic principle is a principle that can be applied in one arena, and it can be applied in other arenas as well. If it's applied in one arena, it's applied in other arenas. And so I started looking at my fighter's journey, and I realized it was very similar to my entrepreneurial journey. And that is, get in alignment with your mind, your heart, and your skill. So I can connect with a business owner who knows a lot more about business than I do. Maybe they've been doing business for 20 years, 30 years. And they might even ask the question, what can you do for me? And their question, I'm going to lead it with a question like, well, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want? Because I have to know that first. But I can see things in a perspective that they might not be able to see or never even considered thinking of before. And in showing them the different perspective, they start showing up differently. And if they show up differently, they get different results. So I'm not here to say, well, I'm good here and I'm not good here. But when I take the time to really just listen and see what they're seeing and help them see in a way that actually serves them, then we're all winning.
I like that. Everybody eats. We can all win together. And I'm sure you're working with all types of business people and business owners. How do you keep yourself from getting intimidated maybe from some of these folks, and maybe not having to kind of fall into this imposter syndrome, right? That some people feel like they fall into sometimes when they're put in situations or with people or places, maybe that they haven't always been destined to, right? You talked about growing up in a place where you were the only essentially Black kid. And now I'm sure you work with all types of clients and people, right? But you know you're supposed to be there, you know you're qualified to work with them, but how do you like keep yourself motivated on that and know that you can do the job and skill?
I love that question. There is a confidence competence loop that we are all dealing with as human beings. It's just it's innate for us. Either the confidence helps us get the competence, or the competence helps us get the confidence. And just like when I first started sparring, I got nervous sparring because I was new at it. And the more that I did it, the less nervous I got. And the more things slowed down. So the best way, it's called be, do, have. We don't have to think about tying our shoe. We just do it naturally.
Right.
And that's like anything else. So things that intimidate you, when you can ask yourself, well, why is this intimidating me? And is it true that I should be intimidated? Well, then, yeah, you get to play with that.
Right.
But the more you go with people, and the more you go with people for their service and not for your own, because most people are like, I got to protect my ego. I gotta look good. I gotta look good all the time. Like, look, I have looked bad multiple times, and I am okay with looking bad. And I have looked bad and looked good again. Like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Because all I got is how I show up. That's it. And everything's a moment. It's a moment by moment basis. So if I'm going to hold on to a negative moment, that's like me trying to get into the cage and say, like, you're a piece of crap. You know you're a piece of crap. You're gonna get knocked out. Like, that is the worst. That's the worst way to go into that cage.
Yeah, because you probably be coming out of it in a good way if you go into it.
Probably would have changed the self-talk a little bit.
And that is important, right? And I think we need to normalize that. Like, yes, I like that. Like, you know, if you need that boost, like for me, before I do public speaking engagements or whatever I do, I give my little woosah. And I tell myself I can do it. Like, I've done this a million times before.
Absolutely.
But I think it's that reminder sometimes, right? That you can give yourself, and to know you're supposed to be doing that will, you know, and I got a woman to face. So I always say that God allows, right? So I love that you touched on that. And, you know, so for you, Clifford, when you look back at all you've done and all these amazing life lessons, when the young kids get older, what do you want them most to remember about Pops, about Dad, and what you've done here on this world?
Wow. You know, the biggest thing I want them to be is proud of me and proud of themselves. Proud of themselves because Dad gave them the tools,
right,
and the resourcefulness to get any and everything that they want.
That's powerful. And so do you feel like a part of what you're doing is kind of trying to build that generational wealth for them, Clifford? Would that be the right words to put?
Absolutely. Because when I look at wealth, wealth is financial, but it's also intellectual. Because you can give people, you can give someone a tool, but if they don't know how to use the tool, well, that's not good.
Right. Is it any good?
So, yeah. And so it's really combining mind, heart, and skill. Just as what I was talking about before, I want them to be able to use their mind, their heart, and their skill at the highest level. And even with influencing 1 billion people, I didn't know what it was at first. I just knew I wanted to influence them. But now I want to influence people to be conscious, to be loving, to be abundant. Because when we're conscious, when we really think about what it is that we're doing, when we're loving with what we're doing, and when we're abundant with what we're doing, everybody wins. And I think we've been conditioned to believe that this zero-sum game exists, and it doesn't. You know, it never did. Even as a fighter, they go, well, someone's got to win and someone's got to lose.
Right.
Not if their mental game's good. If I've lost, and some of my biggest losses have been some of my biggest wins. So then what do you have on that? Like, well, you didn't get your hand raised. No, I didn't. You're right. But I don't feel like a loser. I feel like a winner.
Hmm. I know your team had to love you because you didn't need much motivation or self-pep talk or to be consoled after a quote unquote loss. Because like you said, sometimes there's winning.
I'll tell you a crazy one.
Yeah.
Because this sucked, right? I'm literally, I can't believe I'm on Fox Sports talking about this, but such is life. I get knocked out on live TV. It sucks. Like, that is never fun. And the one thing that I didn't want it to happen was on the UFC stage. I'm like, not on the UFC stage. Please, not on the UFC stage.
Yeah, you're like, this is too big.
And it happened exactly the way that I thought it would. Showing it in slow motion and different angles. I'm like, yeah, that sucked just the way that I thought it was. Like,
the way I envisioned.
Yeah. I was like, that's how I thought it was going to be. Like, here's another angle. I'm like, how did they even find that angle?
You know, TV will do that.
I didn't see cameras over there. Yeah. Now, the crazy part, one of my clients comes up to me. He goes, now I know that you're the real deal. I didn't know what he meant by that. Like,
right.
Okay, you got to explain what that means.
Yeah, break this down for me.
Yeah. He goes, I've never seen you lose before. And when you lost, you just got back up like it's business as usual. And I thought you were just this rah guy who was just trying to make everybody feel good.
Right.
And I had a realization. I go, oh my goodness. He doesn't know how many times I've lost in the practice room to get to that space. There was a lot of losing going on. I don't sit there recording it, but
But you know.
I go, wow, okay. So that's his perspective. And so I gifted him and he gifted me in a way because he didn't know what I was saying was rooted in truth. It was rooted in truth. It was always rooted in truth. But sometimes people have to see the crap end of the stick to know, like, oh, wow, he's right. Like, all you can control is your attitude. Like, that is all you get.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's real. That's real. And like you said, I think it can be hard again when you've been at your weakest moment. I can imagine Clifford, I'll be honest, get knocked out on TV and millions, right? You got to pick yourself, I think back up in a way. But I think to your point, that's when your attitude, I think, comes in, right? How do you look at this? And where do you go from here? Because at the same time, no one was going to care if Clifford Stark stayed on that mat crying. More so we're going to ask, okay, well, what's next? And I think that's a question we get in life a lot. Like, what's next for you? And where do you go from here? Especially athletes, right? After that defeat or loss, what's next? Is it the end of the road? Is he going to make this amazing comeback? Is there a revenge story involved? So Clifford, let me pivot that to you. What is next for you in this next kind of phase of your life? We've done the fighting. We've done, even though you said you're not fully out of it, and you never know, folks. He did not come out. There might be this Clifford Starks return.
I'm going to make a movie out of it if I come back, right?
We want the movie. We want the T-shirt. We want to.
I'm going all out. So what's next for me is being able to communicate with amazing people like yourself. I appreciate you providing me the platform to share my message. To share my message and to speak it. And I want to be able to speak my message out and connect with those that I'm meant to connect with. It's very interesting. They say if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything.
Right.
And my biggest thing was I like playing big. I do. I really like it. And I know people think you're crazy until you're not, until you start showing it. And they're like, holy crap, this person's the real deal. Well, I've been doing this since I was a kid. And I remember you get people who cheer you on and you get people who boo you. You're going to get both. And that's when I know I'm moving in the right direction. And so I want to share my message with others who might be either a little afraid to share their message or they want to share their message more clearly. Because sometimes we don't share it as clearly as we would like. Right. But sharing it in such a way to to impact lives, and a lot of them as we go through the journey.
There's power in that. And I love what you said. You get people to cheer you on and you get people who boo. Yeah. And, it's funny because I think as I've gotten older, I've realized, yes, you want those people in your corner who will cheer you on and support you, no matter what. But also, I feel like, you do something right when you do have those people who don't want you to succeed, right?
It's so cool.
Those
it's
haters
so cool.
Way, right?
Yeah. We're gonna it's rumbling and they're booing you. Like, wow, I've created so much impact. They hate me for nothing.
Right. Right. Think about it. That's a power to make somebody feel. And of course, I don't think people want somebody to feel that way, but the fact that you have that much power over somebody, I feel like it means you're doing something, right? There's something there's an envy. You might not understand it, but there's something in that. And to me, that there's power in that. So I think life isn't always about, not everyone nobody in this world was liked by everybody, right? And at no point in history, it's impossible. And there might be people that you don't even know don't like you, but you know what? Life moves, and you're living in your purpose and giving your power. And like you said, speaking, your dream to vision and reality. And this has been such an inspiring, like I said, conversation, with you, Clifford. Again, it's easy to see how people can resonate to you and what you're building and what you're bringing. Would you say your road to entrepreneurship was fairly easy? Was it difficult? Was it hard? Getting to that road.
That's a great question. It was so hard to easy. And here's the thing.
Easy. Okay.
So I ended up connecting with how do I put this? I use snake oil salesman, right?
Yeah. Okay.
People who's feeding you smoke.
Ooh.
Now the thing is, you don't know when you're being fed smoke, when you're being fed the smoke, if you don't know what the smoke even is, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, as I fought longer, I knew what a good coach versus a bad coach was, because I've been doing it long enough. So I'm like, I've been playing this game long enough. Mm-hmm. You get into entrepreneurship, you don't know right now. Not as an entrepreneur. I haven't seen a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Right.
So entrepreneur, just how I was talking about tying your shoe or riding a bike.
Right.
Well, if you see enough people who tie shoes and you see enough bikes getting ridden, well, you have an idea. But I wasn't around a bunch of people starting businesses. I wasn't like, oh yeah, well, here's my friend over here starting a business. I never saw that.
Right.
So in not seeing that, I didn't know the right from the wrong. And there were parts where I actually would get frustrated, because I'm okay with hard. I don't have a problem with hard, because I know hard will become easy. But if a person tells me, oh, this is so easy, and it doesn't feel easy to you right now, you actually get frustrated.
Right.
So I was having moments of frustration where I'm like, okay, why is this not easy for me right now? Because they're telling me it's supposed to be easy right now.
Yeah.
And truth be told, everyone's in different spaces and different places.
Of course.
And so if they need to hear that something's easy for the first time, I like hard to easy. I do. That's how my mind works, because I know when I'm doing something new and different, this thing doesn't want to do it. It wants to find every excuse under the sun. You're tired. You got to eat this. There's a birthday party. You got it's just finding whatever it can. Here's a card. Here's a card. Here's a card.
Yeah.
And I like knowing that I'm okay. If I put in the reps, my brain will begin to simmer down, and it will know that we're in this thing. But if I'm always looking for an easy route, the easy button,
right?
Well, then I never do the things that I need to do to get to the easy button. And that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey, where it was like, what do I do? What do I do? Where's the easy button? No, don't go after the easy button. And that's what going back to those principles, there wasn't all right, we've been hiding this special combination that only UFC fighters use. And when you use it, you can knock out anybody.
It if only that existed. But Clifford, I think in what you said there, I feel like when people see you from the outside, I do think they think there's those buttons, right? In any career, like, because you make it look easy, right? Which is kind of the point, I guess, of social media and stuff like that, right? Oh, they see this picture of Clifford Starks.
They make it look, they make it look, I think it really messes with people's psyches though. Because if you,
because they think that, like, wait, well, he made it look easy. I get it. He wasn't getting beat up as much as me.
if I were to go like, all right, speaking on TV is so easy. Why are you stuttering like that? Why are you sweating like that? What's wrong with you? They're getting even more sight.
And that's what I think, it's funny you give that example because I feel like I meet people that will do that, right? Like, oh, broadcasting looks easy. You just talk on television. And then if they ever get that opportunity or chance, they're like, wait a minute. All right. So there's a lot of things going on here. Or even interviewing somebody, right? Like there's so many different things that might look easy.
I'll be the first to tell you are absolutely amazing at what you do. Because you don't just get on Fox Sports like, oh yeah, like I just rolled out of bed and they said that I was a pretty little face. And I just started talking on the news with all sorts of amazing people. Like, that's not what happened.
No, that is definitely not the journey. Like, it's been a journey. And I think that's the part that people forget, right? Like we all see, so many of us focus on that final destination or outcome. I think that we forget that person did have a journey, there. And, and obviously it's been said, I think Missy hit on it. All of our journeys look different. Clifford Starks' journey is different than Kelsey Nicole Nelson's journey, and our journey is different than all of our listeners' journey. But there has to be some type of journey, I think, to get to that ultimate outcome. And I think there's beauty, inside of that. That's why, Clifford, I'm so excited for as we continue to watch you. I'm excited to see, what's next for your business. What's next if you do decide to give back, in the cage, and then what's next for your family, right? The 2 kids, the wife. I mean, I hope when we talk in the future, we're celebrating another anniversary, and maybe there's another kid. I don't know what's next in the Clifford Starks story.
My wife would be really happy with that. I'm not looking for that.
I'm like, let me not get anybody in trouble. Clifford might like, not yet. But no, there's been my bad. But I'm excited. Like, I can only imagine. I feel like just the radiance that your kids get from you. And, you have such an amazing story, with all these different facets that you've touched. And I'm so excited that, you accepted the invitation to come on the show. And before I let you go and let you get out of here, anything that you want the listening audience to know with anything that you're doing or how they can reach or contact you, give us the good stuff.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for all of you who listened and all of your amazing comments. Thank you so much. When I'm focused speaking with Kelsey, my brain really just can't go into the comments, but I did see them popping up. So thank you so much for that. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me, Clifford Starks, on my Facebook Messenger, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And my website is The Fighter's Formula, because I have a formula that supports people who are entrepreneurial, who are business owners, and they're looking to grow. They're looking to scale. They're looking to get to their next big dream and turn that into reality. So keep being amazing as well as you go through the journey.
I love that message. Keep being amazing. What a great way to end the show. Again, Clifford Starks, thank you so much for joining me here on Listen In with KNN, presented by Fox Sports Radio. Guys, a Hall of Famer in the house today, Mr. Big Cat Starks. So I'm excited to have you on. I look forward to keeping in contact and in touch with you. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Clifford. We so appreciate him joining the show. And again, we'll be back next week with another live stream show. I hope you all enjoy football tonight. Keep up with the WNBA action. MLB, we're starting to look towards the postseason and what teams will be making that race. So there's so much to look forward to for so many of us sports fans. Again, I want to shout out my team, my incredible team that helps make each and every show go. I cannot do it without you all. And thank you so much for our lively comment section today. So many new listeners and viewers. And of course, thanks to my OGs that have been here for so long. So appreciate you guys and can't wait to talk to you soon. We'll have many more amazing special guests joining the show throughout, I'll say, the late summer, early fall, throughout pumpkin spice season. We're going to be bringing you all some quality content. So until later this week, have a great one and make it a great day. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, at @TheRealKNelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM, Fox Sports Radio in the Washington, D.C. area, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.